Hey everyone, Marty here with Warehouse and Operations as a Career, and I have absolutely no idea what I'd like to talk about today. We've received so many great questions and topics suggested to us lately. I've got to try and get caught up with them all. Last week, let's talk about this one real quick. Last week I briefly mentioned planning and goals, and a longtime listener shared his plan with us. He didn't want to join me on the recording, but he was more than happy to have me share it with the group. I really did enjoy his story. This gentleman had been working out in the oil fields of West Texas for, I think it was about 2 years, maybe 3 years. He'd never really liked the work. It paid really, really good, but he decided that he had no interest in going back to school and really felt like without further education, his advancement opportunities were going to be pretty much nil to none. His girlfriend had ran across our WAOC podcast somewhere and passed it on to him. Their plans were to move to Dallas about 3 weeks after that, and he decided to kind of plan out his next career. Well, they got everything moved, and the day after, he kind of got started on his job search. He knew the pay rate that he wanted to make after, roughly 12 months, and focused only on the larger distribution centers, the larger national corporations. Now, I really did like his plan. He actually took the time to call several companies and ask them a few questions. I was really surprised to hear that he got so many answers from them. I mean, I encourage everyone to do a little research on their prospective employers, but he really dug into them. He got answers like what type of equipment the facility used, how they felt about promoting from within. One place even shared their safety ranking with him. I think he fared so well with the questions and answers because he'd done his homework and kind of let the HR generalist or hiring agents talk about their companies. Remember how we've talked about how we need to interview our prospective companies before or while they're interviewing us? Well, as he suspected, he was told that he'd need experience to make that dollar amount that he'd envisioned, so he started on his quest with a solid plan. So he'd picked 3 good companies that he felt fit his needs and applied directly with them. He did all the legwork, went to their HR departments, filled out the application right there on their premises. Now, normally I preach this approach. It makes sense that it'd be the best approach, right? Now, he was a little bit surprised that the first 2 places he applied just took his application and was told someone would be calling him if they had any positions that they felt were qualified for him. And the 3rd place went as far as interviewing him and then stated they'd be giving him a call should something become available that he was qualified for. He said the puzzling thing here was that all 3 had actually been advertising on different Facebook job boards. Now, he had listened to our episode on using all the job boards to our advantage and how we could, while still being honest, rework the resumes a bit to reflect what we wanted to do instead of what we've done. He went ahead and removed all the information about the oil fields, added all his certificates that were earned in classes that he'd taken, kind of on-the-job training type stuff, and leaned heavily on his thoughts of safety and what he wanted to be doing in 2 years. He took his new resume and uploaded it through those online ads for each of his 3 choices, the same 3 companies that he just applied in person with. All 3 companies reached out and he secured a phone interview with each one of them. I really think that this enforces our thoughts regarding today's hiring agents. I don't mean to be negative in any way, but I guess I mean they're looking at our resumes only and not looking at us during that face-to-face interview. On his first visit, they'd all just read his past experiences and no one dug in to find out what he was wanting to do. Anyway, so the first company pretty much implied that without equipment experience, they weren't really interested, but yep, you guessed it. Should anything become available that, would fit his qualifications, they'd be happy to give him a call. Companies number 2 and number 3 set him up with a face-to-face interview for later on in the week. he'd pretty much nailed both of those phone interviews. Now, although both of those interviews went well, after speaking with them, he didn't really get that good feeling in his gut about their overall organizations. They had both offered him a general labor position, so he was going to choose one of them. Didn't really have a choice, but he knew he needed a job. When he got home that very afternoon, he'd received a call from company number 1. He'd been called in for an interview. He went in the next morning, really fell in love with the company. He was offered a general labor position, really at a higher pay rate than both of the other two, and accepted right there on the spot. He tells me the moral to the story is to never give up. All this happened by his second week, 8 days actually, after he'd initiated or put his plan into action. Well, he went ahead and started the following week. It was a second shift position, kind of a warehouse sanitation / utility job, but he was going to have free roam of the building, and he was able to scope out all the positions in the plant. By his first month, his supervisor was already working with him on the electric walkie jack, and by his third month, he'd been promoted to the day shift and was pulling or order selecting for the will call department and on an electric rider jack. He wanted me to point out that an important part of that promotion was that he asked questions all the time. He let his boss know that he wanted to operate the electric pallet jack and work a day job. This is where his story really kind of got interesting. By his 6th month, since he now had a little experience on the rider jacks, that he was offered a position as an order selector back on the night shift. Nights wasn't particularly what he wanted, but the money was. With the productivity incentives that came along with the position, he'd surpassed that original pay rate wish that he'd started out with. All of this was accomplished in half the time that he'd really planned on. So with a little adjustment to those plans and goals, he set his eyes on a receiver position next. It was going to pay a little more, and it was a day job. 1 year and 9 months later, he asked for and received that promotion to receiving and was already back on days. He achieved all of his goals in 27 months, and that's 2 years and 3 months. He'd changed his industry, changed careers, and a little more than doubled his starting wage. Now, this gentleman attributes his success to planning, setting himself a goal and making himself stick to it. He made it a point to be on time and present for every shift and standing out to his management teams. He wanted me to point out that he's definitely not the most productive employee, but he states that he's always tried to be a little bit above average. He speaks up at every meeting and places an emphasis on errors. He tries not to have any errors, period. Well, in his world, his next step is supervision. His goal is for this year to become a lead man. He told me he'll probably have to go back to nights for a while, but that's the path for being the day shift supervisor, so that's his new plan. We here at WAOC wishes him the best of luck in those endeavors, and we'll be following him. He may just be president of that company one day. Oh, real quick, I did have something I wanted to mention. This can be a bit tricky. We have to follow our management's directions, but I can't help but feel, and I've mentioned before, how we as employees bear the responsibility to do what's right, and part of that is keeping our managers apprised of any safety concerns. This week, I heard of a dock door that was missing the trailer chocks, the chocks for the wheels outside. Guys were unloading from it anyway and had not mentioned it to their management. It'd been gone for over a week, I was told. Now, of course, when they brought it up, it was replaced immediately by their building management manager. Another thing I heard about was a driver's truck had been unloaded. His load locks were put back in his trailer and the dock door was closed and the light switch turned to green. Well, the load strap was attached to his E-track on the trailer wall, and the other end was under the dock door laying on the dock plate. Well, the driver pulled away, and the lower 2 door panels were pulled out. Bent up pretty bad. That was a costly error for their company. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our responsibility, our jobs, to work safely and take care of each other and our company's assets. That really needs to be a part of our planning goals, right? Well, I know I learned a lot about planning and goals this week. By the end of the month, I'm going to have mine adjusted, and I'm going to be back on the straight and narrow. How about you? Are you on track to meet all your objectives? We're going to be having a lot of discussions this month about planning and goals on our Facebook and Twitter feeds, where we can be found using that little @ sign, WHSEANDOPS. Join in and teach us all something. And as always, feel free to send an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com. We love getting mail. Well, I hope I didn't just get to rambling today. I get really excited when someone's plan comes together. I love hearing all y'all's success stories. So until next week, please work safe, do what we know to be right, and let's all help take care of each other.